It's SAGIC time, which is good because we haven't done it in a little bit because we've been waiting for today. So, I assume most of the SAGIC members who are going to be online are online already, especially since we had originally planned to start at 3:30 today. So we're gonna dive right into it. Hello, Christine. I see you on video mode with a DOT background. Bully for you. That is awesome. So I'm going to make a little leap of faith here and assume that most of the SAGIC folk are out here and that we can start moving into the meeting without kind of waiting for that soft open because we've already had one. And I'm not aware of new folks to introduce at the moment. So we will do a roll call of our SAGIC voting members. And then if you are a state agency employee, we'll ask you to type your name into the chat and we'll acknowledge that you're here that way just so that we can move through this expeditiously. So a couple people that I do want to make sure on the line because they usually write things and keep me on track. Felipe and Shelly are our fellow officers along with me. Are you both online?
Howdy.
Hello, Shelly. Hey, Felipe. All right, so I'm gonna go off of our meeting draft notes and use that for roll call. So does that work for you, Shelly?
Yes, it does.
Fantastic. All right, here we go. Mike Krieger from BCPL. Hearing nothing. Cody Cook from DATCAP.
I'm here.
Excellent. Andy Swartz from DHS. Told me he would be here after 4 o'clock, so we should see him then. Chris Diller from DMA.
Present.
Fantastic. Larry Cutforth from DNR.
Here.
Wonderful. And to answer your question, yes, this mustache is real. Mike Freese from DOA.
I'm here, Cody. I'm here.
Excellent. Excellent. Ty Krugman from DOJ. Hearing nothing. Mark Pollitt from DOR. He sent me an email just a few minutes ago saying he was probably not going to be able to catch the meeting, but I do have a quick update from him. Christine Keller from DOT.
Here.
And visible. Awesome. Shelley Whitty from DPI.
Yep.
She's here and recording herself as here. Zach Robinson from LTSB.
Yeah, I'm here.
Excellent. Nice to see ya. All right. And I am here from the Public Service Commission. From the State Cartographer's Office, Jim Lacey.
I'm here, and it's a lovely mustache, Colter.
Thank you, sir. And that's a lovely red background. I don't see you.
That's okay.
A sharp background. You know, it works. All right. From UW Systems, Paul Bainline.
Here. Hello.
Excellent. Hello, sir. Oh, there's Jim. Fresh with a Canada t-shirt. All right. From the Elections Commission, Greg Gruby.
Yep, I'm here.
Excellent. Welcome, sir.
Thanks.
From Emergency Management, Scott Weber-Powell. He told me he wasn't going to be able to make it today. And then from the Historical Society, Felipe is on and visible.
Howdy.
Hello. All right. I know there's some additional state employees on the line. I don't see anything in the chat yet. Yeah, just type your name into the chat so that we have it for our meeting minutes and we will go from there. Tony from DOT is here. Nina from DNR is here. I think I saw Milena from the PSC earlier. I see her on camera, so that is good. And yeah, feel free to type those in and we're gonna go ahead and move on with the meeting. So our next item up for discussion and review is minute approval from the September meeting. So Shelley would have sent those minutes out, probably in early September, reasonably enough. If we move quickly enough, if my computer moves quickly enough, I'll pull it up on screen. But if anybody has any comments on the September meeting minutes, please make those comments now. And otherwise we can move on to a vote to approve those minutes. Also, Davida from DOA and Tiffany from DOT are on the line, and you should be able to see the meeting minutes now. Any comments on the September SAGIC minutes or a move to approve them?
Move to approve, Jim.
Jim Lacey's moved to approve the September minutes. Do we have a second? I hear the screen is pretty small. Thank you, Nina. Hope this is
Second
better.
that. That's Greg.
We have a second from Greg. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from SAGIC voting members, please respond by saying aye.
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 I hear a pile of ayes, which is excellent. All those opposed, please respond by saying nay. I hear no nays. Do we have any abstainers from the SAGIC voting member list? All right, normally I would slam my table, but I feel like I can't be quite that loose today. So the September meeting minutes have been approved. I haven't quite scrolled through them, but we have had a month to review them, so I feel pretty good about that. All right, again, those minutes are approved. I'm turning my screen share off as soon as I can get away with it here. Excellent. All right, so our next item on the agenda is a discussion about enterprise GIS within state government and the idea of pursuing a work group to make that more formal. I'm gonna let Chris take the lead on that. Go ahead, Chris.
Good morning, everybody, or afternoon, I should say. Got the morning wrong there. So I think just to kind of follow up and from last month, I had talked a little bit about gathering some business requirements and business needs from state agencies to document what it is that state agencies really need in a, whatever you want to call it, a portal, a data exchange, a data download, whatever that might be. That remains to be undefined in state government and what we need as an overall enterprise. So I think most agencies probably have an idea of what it is that they're looking for or would like, but we haven't yet documented that. I had promised to go forward and pull together some documentation around sort of an action plan related to that activity, but the month got away from me. I didn't get that done. A couple of conferences I attended and a few other real work activities had to get completed. So I will have a little bit more time in the coming weeks that I can dedicate that to. So hopefully in early November at the next SAGIC meeting, I'll have something a little bit more formal that we can react to. I think the idea here is that we can have something simple and easy for agencies and their individual groups, if so be, to respond to something on the order of a questionnaire that would help us gather the information we're looking for. The idea here is that we have some sort of white paper, whatever that might look like, a couple pages long or maybe a little bit more, with sort of the idea of what that might look like for us. So I had also sent out a couple of documents last month, and just as a reminder to take a look at those documents and read through those. That might help formulate some ideas and thoughts around your business needs and your requirements as it relates to access to information, whatever information you're seeking. I will also say that we've got the open data page for SAGIC, and we also have the hard work that the state cartographer's office has put together in terms of data access, sort of assembling it. So what we're looking for in business requirements, possibly, and documenting that is what are the other segments that are not covered either through the open data page or through the portal that SEO might offer. For example, the emergency management stuff that I had passed out. So data sets that may not be open or available to the public, how do we gain access to those individually or as individual agencies where security might be required? So those type of things and discussions will be formulated in a way that we can hopefully answer and document and suggest a path forward. So, Colter, I know Andy's not on the line, but is there anything you want to add? You and I had talked a little bit about that this week or last week.
Yeah, and no, I appreciate it, Chris, and I think that was a pretty good summary. I don't know that there's a ton to add as far as what I think we're going for here or what I understand this should be going for. I mean, again, documenting business needs that maybe haven't been thrown out in the shared SAGIC forum, if you will, is the biggest priority here. And of course, knowing that there's a large open data component that's out there, and Jim and Zach are going to give a significant update on that in just a few minutes. I mean, if there's one thing of note that comes out of my mind that we didn't cover is I think once we get the ball rolling, we want this process to be fairly efficient, probably lasting not much more than a quarter to at the most. But I also know that we being SAGIC, kind of like we as WLIA, speaking for I think pretty much all of us as WLIA members, are a bit at the mercy of what we can do kind of on that volunteer, here's what time we have basis. So, but it would be nice to be able to move through this efficiently. I did see that Jim Lacey raised his hand. So if you want to unmute yourself and throw a piece in there too.
I will throw a piece in. I'm not sure what that means, but I'll throw something in there.
Me neither.
And I will
try
try
it.
There, I lowered my hand. So Colter, you sent out that draft charter a couple hours ago. And
Yes.
honestly, based on what I heard Chris say and honestly based on past discussions, I don't think that charter really reflects what the group is after. What I'm hearing Chris and have heard Andy talk about before is really more of a cross-agency enterprise GIS approach. And that charter that was thrown out there really is sort of a recasting of the old the old open data page group, which I don't think is really honestly what we're after, I keep saying honestly.
No, you're good. You're good. So point of clarification there, the charter that went out to SAGIC members earlier this afternoon is diverging from what Chris is summarizing here. What we're going for there, and primarily Andy, I think, is going to end up taking the lead on that, is more just to formalize a forum for the folks who are specifically maintaining open data portals that would ultimately feed into the Geo portal. That isn't the wider enterprise discussion. That's technically two different things.
Okay, I didn't catch that, so thank you for that clarification. So are we talking about creating another work group of some sort then?
So
the
go ahead, Chris.
So I think the answer is yes, but it's very, very short-lived because it has a very specific goal in mind, and that is to produce a report or a white paper about our business needs across the enterprise. Plain and simple. Let's seek out and ask the right questions and have those agencies respond to those questions in a way that we can pull together and document it once and for all. We've never really done this before. We've done it in bits and pieces and in other reports, but never holistically across the enterprise. So pulling it all together, allowing us to get it documented, it's going to help us make future decisions as we start having more discussions around, open data page, or is open data even what we're seeking here? And that's really kind of what I'm after is open data page or open data concepts, does that actually meet the majority of our needs? And if it does, that's what I'm looking for. And if it doesn't, that too, right? And so if it doesn't, then what needs to be filled in? What is the delta between what we have and where we need to go? And what does that cost if it does? So, but that's really what I'm after. That's what Andy and a couple of other of us have talked about, is really identifying what it is that we need as individual agencies, but together as an enterprise. Sorry.
Okay, I'm with you. I think, Colter, the close juxtaposition of that charter going out and now hearing what Chris is describing, that is very confusing.
Understandable.
Maybe just to me and only, and that's okay if so, I guess for my part.
Well, no, without context, your concern makes total sense. And I will ultimately what went out this afternoon and what will be discussed once Andy's on the line. That's more of where I would say this enterprise discussion is a 40,000 foot view. Forgive me if my hands don't fit in the screen. what is being looked at in that charter that rolled out today is much more 10,000 foot level, arguably a part of the enterprise. Andy's online, so Andy will get to that when we get into that section, and I would guess about 10 minutes. But yeah, they're different for those reasons. So Christine, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention when Chris was talking and explaining this, one thing that we're trying to do at DOT is not have a bunch of requests going out to other agencies that maybe are redundant or asking for the same data multiple times. And so I think one of the objectives of this working group might just be putting together a list of who best to contact at the agencies for data requests. Like DOT specifically has a GIS data broker. So I'm thinking that would be your point of contact if you wanted to receive some not open data layer from WISDOT.
Sure. Forgive me. I was in another meeting on, ironically, an agency-wide open data portal need for DHS, but I think that's where I was coming from with this enterprise effort. And again, I didn't see Chris's presentation. Is that we're not saying how data will be shared. We're just talking about greasing the skids to make it much easier for us to request and share data across state agencies and within state government in general. So if that means having a data broker and a single point of contact, that's a great step in the right direction, in my opinion.
All right, so unless there's other questions or comments from either members or guests, I think that wraps up this discussion. We can move on to open data page discussion.
Colter, real quick before we
yes,
get there.
Chris, go ahead.
I'll just kind of wrap it up real quick. I think just so everyone knows, the genesis in this type of discussion is related to the COVID response, where Andy and Scott and myself and you, Colter, and Jim were meeting weekly in providing support to not only DHS but DMA and WEM as a whole. So I think that's why we're going down this road, is kind of rooted in that, and trying to identify, okay, who has what and how would we even get to them if we need to them, So that's sort of the context. Is this pandemic that we're in has sort of led that discussion as to, boy, it'd be nice if we had these things, and do we really need these things, and do other agencies really need these things, or is this just unique to DHS and DMA and WEM? And so that is sort of why we're going down this road. So just kind of context for everybody.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. Any other comments from anyone or questions? Excellent. We're going to move ahead to the open data page group updates, and this, to articulate this a little more cleanly, I think we're going to basically have two updates, one of them coming from Zach and Jim Lacey, and then another one coming from Andy Swartz. So Zach and Jim, take the floor.
Go ahead, Zach.
All right. Well, I'll start and then I'll let you finish. So basically, for a little background, for context, for those of you that haven't been following this for the last couple of years now, I guess, SAGIC went ahead and put together a quick open data page through LTSB's ArcGIS open data site. And it was essentially a place for links to access multiple different state agency sites, open data pages primarily, and also to help kind of facilitate every state agency putting together an open data page. Moving forward, I think that we've essentially removed those links now and are utilizing geodata at SEO and RML to kind of fulfill a lot of that. And I will let you jump in and explain that in better detail. That's a very quick, in a nutshell, for sake of time. But yeah, go ahead, Jim.
See, I was trying to pass the buck to you because I didn't know we were talking. So.
I was doing the same.
Oh man, we'll keep passing it back and forth. Well, another long story short, I suppose, is that I believe we've, succeeded in shutting down the old open data site. correct, Zach? That's all essentially, well, it's still there, but it's redirecting
Exactly.
that way. And Colter, I believe on Friday, you set up the little graphic on the SAGIC home site, that's homepage that says essentially go here for SAGIC quote unquote open data, which yes, points now to geodata at Wisconsin. So the implication there is that there's roughly, I should know this off the top of my head, I think it's about 500-600 data sets, state agency data sets that are searchable alongside the 20,000 or so other data sets that are documented on the Geodata at Wisconsin site. So the implication for the users on the previous SAGIC site, they could go to the SAGIC site, search for state agency data and state agency data only. Now a user could go to the Geodata at Wisconsin site and search everything, including state agency data. And we have what's called a collection, kind of like a playlist, if you will, for state agency data. So we've transitioned all that stuff as of last week, and moving forward on that, we'll continue to maintain that, again, moving forward to the future. So all the links are updated on the SAGIC site. Everything is ready to go per our earlier vote last month or the month before. So I think we're all set to go. That's about it, really.
As far as I can tell, it's very much the case for those of you who use, I believe the domain is mapdata.sagic.wi.gov. That is set up to redirect towards the geodata collection of state agency data as well. So everything should be running so that we're using geodata at UW. So Zach and Jim, thank you for coordinating that. A shout out, I think also absolutely needs to go to Jamie Martindale, who I don't believe is on the line, but her work at Robinson Map Library is a big part of that as well. So thank you all and everyone who I haven't named. So that covers that update. But Andy, you've got some updates on an altered direction for the original open data page work group, which is tied to that email that I sent out earlier this afternoon. Would you like to explain away? You're muted at the moment. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, we've got a draft charter that we've been taken, which is a revision of the original charter. And again, the original charter did mention the page that LTSB was hosting that Zach and Jim just spoke about, sort of sunsetting and putting that functionality in a collection at the Robinson SCO page. So what we've done is we've reconstituted this charter to really talk about a work group that is for supporting each other as in state agencies in developing, building, maintaining open spatial data portals. Right now, it would be LTSB, DHS, DNR, and I think DPI are the four that currently have open data portals. And clearly, there's an opportunity for several other agencies to come along. And one of our goals, again, is to have a common user experience. That means one of the things that we worked on in the past, and we really want to encourage additional state agencies to hopefully use, which is common tags, things like Wisconsin, government, state, etc., so that, and also building out the sites, relatively similar so that there's a fairly common user experience for public and other visitors to the various state agency, individual agency open data pages. So those are some of the things that we've written about in this proposed charter for the reconstituted work group. You're muted, Colter.
All right, now I'm not muted. Thanks, Andy. So, and I know I rolled this updated charter out pretty quickly, but yeah, I think, Andy, you gave a good summary there, and I don't expect folks to be able to really read this off my screen. So part of me wonders why I'm trying, but it'll at least give guests a chance to realize that we're pondering over a document, but I'm going to stop my screen share at least because it's throwing my game off here. But yeah, I think this is really a chance for us to, again, refocus, especially now that we have a different portal that we're working with. So I think, Andy, you gave a good summary. Christine's got her hand up. So Christine, you are unmuted.
Hey, this is really timely because Wisconsin Department of Transportation right now is putting together their open data portal. And I think we're looking at Hub. It's going to be some type of technology through ArcGIS Online. So I guess, I mean, obviously we're very interested. I'm wondering when you're talking about standards and tags and common look and feel, how much of that is ready and or going to be ready soon? So we kicked off in October and we're hoping to have something kind of up possibly as early as February, March.
We've got some artifacts from the past that are, shareable, but it's really more a matter of what the work group wants to accomplish and in what time frame and how soon we have our next meeting after presumably we have a charter voted on and approved by SAGIC.
And I think that speaking as one of the agencies that was in the original charter
Hi.
a couple of years ago, but the PSC in part because of how we've needed to prioritize things, we don't have our open data presence where we want it to be at. Certainly we're still wanting to get there as well. I think, it is a matter of, to use an expression that I know Andy and I have used a million times on phone calls over the last couple of months. I think it's a matter of how quickly we get the band together and how often we get the band together to make this happen. And I mean, we can cite artifacts certainly, but there's also the 5 open data pages that are out there now that offer some guidance as well. Throw in the unique elements of, say, DOT's business needs or DHS's business needs, and that will inform it as well. So I think this group is as active and as forward moving as we make it be, which it's the nature of SAGIC everything.
And again, I really want to emphasize that we're not talking about a top-down draconian standards and policy sort of effort here. We're talking about a very grassroots, egalitarian, helpful, encouragement type environment where we've got a group where the project leaders and the technologists doing the implementations are able to come together and collaborate and share and hopefully create products that are good for the state of Wisconsin, but also meet the needs of the individual agencies, of course, and their business requirements. Like, for example, DHS has a very extensive workflow and form that has to be filled out with sign-offs and approvals, like saying that it is indeed open data and things like that by the data owners that they have to follow before they can put the data into the portal. Now that's something that maybe another agency doesn't have, but maybe another agency, by virtue of conversation through this work group, would benefit from to find out about that. Just for example. And you're welcome to it, Christine.
Yeah, we would absolutely take whatever documentation you have would be very helpful. And I think it's also going to be interesting working with our public affairs office and what they will and will not allow. So it'll be good. I look forward to it.
We can also at DHS tell you about the fact that we're getting 2 to 3 million hits a day on data in our portal because of the pandemic in terms of COVID data, and that we've run into some real technological limitations in Esri's platform, which is why my meeting that I was just in a few minutes ago was about what we might do to use a different platform than the Esri platform in the future. Again, it's just a preliminary discussion. Leadership's not involved. It was technologists and people who are grappling with the issues just beginning to talk about it. I want to make that very clear, lest anybody go say, oh, DHS is replacing the Esri portal. Not necessarily the case. No timeline, but it's something we did have to begin discussing. What might we do, being that we're having limitations and people are asking to add more and more data to our portal, and we've done a lot of work to keep it going, and it's working fine, but we have to plan for alternatives.
Thank you.
Excellent. certainly we can discuss a little bit more before we get into updates. We're getting a little short on time. I know my hope, though, it is definitely up to SAGIC membership to decide this one, is that we could choose to approve this work group today, or we can move to table it to do a formal vote in November, depending on how you all feel about it comfortability wise. If there is no discussion, I'd be up for hearing a motion or some radio silence for there to be nothing for a minute or two. I'll let you guys go, let you all go ahead.
I just
Jim's
have a
raised his hand. Oh, Christine, go ahead.
Sorry. No, let Jim go. He did it
All
the
right.
right way.
I raised my hand, man. Come on. Jeez. I'm
Oh man,
teasing.
hand raising battle. Go ahead, Jim.
My suggestion would be to wait until next month. I think just as a matter of procedure here, to send
Proper
it out a couple
procedure.
hours before the meeting. I think that's not a great precedent. I don't
I
have
agree.
any problems per se with the document now that I've cleared up my own confusion about this and the previous issue. There are some things that need to be corrected in the
Mm-hmm.
document, which I'd rather not sit here and tell you how to spell some things differently. And I don't think the member list is quite correct. I think that's a holdover from a previous thing. So I think there's a few little refinements that could take place here. So I would propose we just punt on it for now. And I don't really think that precludes anybody from, proceeding with any work, whatever that work is to be, quite honestly.
I think on an informal level, especially Jim, I think that is sound sense. And certainly just being aware of how that member list is written in there, it could use some updates or could afford to have some verification done at least. So I would say, let's hear what Christine has to say. And then if you want to make that formal motion, do it. Christine, what you got?
Sort of ditto. I just wondered what process would be for getting the document updated. And of course I want to be a member. So yeah.
I'm going to informally say we're going to get through this meeting, and this is to delegate something. Email us or email Andy. I mean, you can email me too and I'll forward it, but email Andy for sure. And heck, any of us can start working on editing this thing now. Just get in the loop with Andy is the most important next step.
I'd rather have one person editing it, and comments could come to me, and CC Colter would be great.
Perfect.
If I could just
Zach?
I was just going to make what about setting a specific date to have any edits by a certain X date? And then that way you can send it out, maybe a week before the next SAGIC meeting. So maybe even by the end of the 23rd or something, and then you can send it out the 28th or something. And then that way people have a chance to review. That way it kind of holds certain people accountable, gets the edits all kind of focused to one place. And then we can for sure have a vote on the solid document that everybody's had a chance to read before the next SAGIC meeting.
Great suggestion.
I would agree. I've got a calendar up. Zach, you've probably outlined the dates pretty well already. I'm not sure if that's a hand raised motion from Chris or if that's a hand clapping motion from Chris.
I was just
if you got
so whatever.
All right. No. I mean, it match. What you said, Zach, matches what we generally do if we're doing like an intra-meeting or inter-meeting voting process. So I'm just scribbling this down and we can get it in the meeting minutes if you all are okay with it. Working backwards, let's plan to do a final vote at our meeting on Wednesday, November 4th, which will be our standard November meeting. We will have final language from the edits done by open of business October 28th. So that's a week before the meeting. And I would say today is the 12th. To use the date, I think you said, Zach, get edits into Andy by close of business Friday, October 23rd. How does that sound?
It's up to Andy.
Yeah, and Andy, how do you feel about it? You're the one who's going to be taking a good chunk of this on. Thumbs up. All right, to formalize this, can we get a motion to effectively table and reorganize our voting strategy so that we decide on this on November 4th? That's my really shoddy summary of this.
I don't know if we need a motion to table something we haven't motioned on, but that's fine if you want.
I thought we technically needed, I thought a formal tabling is proper.
Well, okay. I move to table this until the November meeting.
Sounds good. Do we have a second?
Yes, I will second that. Zach at LTS.
Zach will second that. All those in favor of effectively voting on this at the November meeting, please respond, SAGIC voters, by saying aye.
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 Excellent. All opposed, say nay. All abstaining. Good. We are finalizing this on November the 4th. So, all right. I believe that covers the business subjects. If I had the right document up on my other screen, we could confirm that. No, I don't want to look at the charter right now. I want to look at the agenda. There we go. All right, so we are moving on to agency updates. So still looking at having a 5 p.m. end time. We probably have about a couple minutes each at most. So we will go in alphabetical order based on state agency and of course based on who is here. So I'm going to go ahead and read this off of the meeting minutes list like I did for roll call, confirming that Mike Krieger is not here for the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands, correct? No response. All right, from the Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection, Cody Cook, are you still on the line?
I am still on the line.
What's going on,
And
sir?
Not a lot. Working from home like everyone else. As most people can imagine, our agency is pretty diverse. We do not have a huge staff, but we have a lot of data. And we cover everything from animal health, food safety, working with farmers in ag development. The group that I work closely with more is groundwater sampling, plant industry, where we do pest surveys, gypsy moth program, things like that. And so we have a lot of data. We also do consumer protection. So it's very broad. And like I said, the group that I'm more closely tied with for groundwater right now is field season. So they're doing a lot of sampling of groundwater wells for rural areas. We're also doing a lot of pest survey inspections, gypsy moth, trap collection, things like that. Animal health, they've had a couple, it's been in the news lately, I think up in Taylor County, there was a farm that had there was a mink farm that had COVID transferred to mink. So that's in the news. And there's also a new deer farm up in Burnett County that has CWD, so we work with that. Ag development, I've been helping them a little bit, connecting with, making maps showing where meat producers can connect to processors. So they want to know where the processing plants are, and they're trying to do that. Food safety, they've just recently received a big grant for connecting the producers as well to like food pantries. So it's pretty diverse. I haven't heard much out of consumer protection lately, but it's been pretty crazy, I think. And that's all I have. Any questions, let me know. You can go to our DATCAP website, search GIS. You'll find contact information. We have a number of public facing web applications, but there's also some behind the scenes as well. So we have a plethora of data. So if anyone's looking for data, just let us know.
Excellent. Thank you, Cody. Gonna move ahead to Department of Health Services with Andy again.
Oh, we are working on keeping the data pumped out 7 days a week on COVID cases and counts. We're hearing a lot of feedback from local health department districts through various channels about different data needs, requests. Some want more data, some want less data, because if we put more data out, then they have to do more explaining of the data, which is a burden on like how to help people interpret the data. So there's kind of challenges in both directions, which is kind of interesting to think about, because a lot of us, I think, we think like more data is better, but it's not always the case. We again are working on grappling with the size and the growth of our historical data tables for COVID. Recently had to break them off, and we only offer a 90-day rolling data in spatial formats, and then we're offering historical data in the CSV format, back to the beginning, back to March. That's been a recent change. Working on potentially some additional geographies in addition to the counties, tracts, and statewide data. We are working on a very interesting project having to do with genetic content for COVID in wastewater samples from sanitary sewer influent at wastewater treatment plants. Exciting to be working with the WLA municipal user group for what will soon be an outreach effort to those GIS staff that work with or for or on behalf of wastewater treatment plants. We'll be doing an ask for treatment plant service area boundaries, which then DHS GIS team is going to be aggregating those hopefully up to all 100 treatment plant districts in the state. And we'll be taking census block units and apportioning population into those service area boundaries. So we'll have case counts by treatment plant service areas, along with the genetic content from those treatment plants that have bought in, or not bought into, who have signed on to the testing protocol with the State Lab of Hygiene. And ultimately there will be some tracking going on and trend analysis of COVID case count data from testing versus COVID, people's sinuses versus COVID case count testing from mixed multi 24 samples per day, one mixed in a composite sample, one per day from mixed wastewater from those treatment plant service areas, and looking to see, you know, what those trends do. So that's very, very interesting project. And again, we are excited to be partnering with WIA Municipal User Group, and we're hopeful that we'll have an opportunity to receive authoritative service area boundaries for most, if not all, wastewater treatment plants in the state. We are going to be publishing with our ask protocol for how we'd like to receive the data, as well as a method for a SharePoint site that people will be able to upload the data to. Thank you in advance for anyone who contributes to this effort, whether it be through communications or through data.
Fabulous. And you guys have a little, oh, go ahead, Andy.
Also, I just remembered, we also do non-COVID stuff.
Fair assessment. But you all do have a ton on your plate right now, Andy, and it's I think we all you deserve a big tip on the cap from the geospatial community for what you all are taking on, including with new and unusual and temporary staff and everything that it takes to keep the machines running, especially when demand is probably as high as ever with GIS at DHS. So thank you, Andy. All right, Chris at DMA, Department of Military Affairs.
Yes, a couple of quick updates. The first is on the National Guard side. There's an interesting trend taking place nationally, and we're seeing it now here in Wisconsin. The intelligence group within, called the J2, is taking a lot of ArcGIS Online training. I'm not sure what that means. I've been interacting with some of those folks, but they're trying to get up to speed to be able to use ArcGIS Online. I think somewhere about 24 or 25 soldiers and airmen within that group have been taking ArcGIS Online. So it's a positive step forward for our agency in terms of expanding the use of GIS, at least, for entry-level users. I think that's really important. I guess probably the biggest thing for me to report in the last month is the closing of an Esri case that I opened in January. It took 7 months to come to a resolution. We had a problem with our ArcGIS Enterprise Living Atlas that got corrupted within the index file. It was a very long and arduous process, but ultimately the only way to fix it was to upgrade. And so through that process, we were able to fix and enhance a number of other things. But the biggest thing is that our entire enterprise, ArcGIS Enterprise, is upgraded to 10.8. We were in the process of upgrading to 10.8 before 10.8.1 came out, so that's why we're not at the .1 version. I will probably then upgrade to the .1 version here before the end of the year. So folks, I know Colter, you and I have had a number of discussions in helping your situation out and trying to provide some guidance and advice. But if there's any agencies who are interested, who want to know more about the intricacies of deploying and maintaining an ArcGIS Enterprise, please let me know. I'm happy to engage in a conversation. If we want to do a work group, not anything like the other work groups we've been talking about, but more of a bag lunch type of work group where we can share information, where people want to ask questions. I think all of us who've been engaged in deploying software at the enterprise level have some thoughts and ideas and workarounds that might be useful to all of you, and advice going forward. So that's it from DMA perspective. I'm not going to even attempt to try to recite anything that Scott has for emergency management. He's got a lot going on. I know that they're doing daily updates as well, along with DHS. They're working in tandem, and they're doing some stuff there and in WebEOC. But I'll leave all the details for that for Scott to talk about at another time.
Excellent. Thank you, Chris. And yeah, Scott did let me know that he wasn't going to be able to make the meeting today. I just glanced at his email that he sent me now, and he didn't provide additional info, so I won't be able to kick more stuff out, unfortunately. But we'll move ahead regardless. So again, thanks, Chris. And next on our list that I've now hidden, but I'm pretty sure it is DNR. So I'm going to just let it is DNR. Larry, if you're still on the line, there you are. Feel free to give us an update from the Department of Natural Resources.
Thanks, Colter. Just going to mention a couple of things. A few meetings ago, I mentioned the DNR was seeking to set up ArcGIS Desktop in a virtual environment. We looked at Citrix first and ended up going with VMware Horizons. So we were able to set up ArcGIS Desktop, ArcMap, and ArcGIS Pro in that environment for about 30 people. We are working through a bunch of issues, like access to our internal file shares is an issue, because VMware uses accounts domain, and all of our file shares are DNR domain. So a few things to work out there. But overall, it's worked pretty well. The other thing I was going to mention is we're building out a lot of use of ArcGIS Hub Premium. So Hub Premium is basically like ArcGIS Inline, but it's configured for external users. So the public or other organizations or agencies can join it. One of the things about Hub Premium, named user accounts within it are $1, which is a big difference with ArcGIS Online, of course. So we're building out quite a few applications using Hub. We're doing quite a few wildlife surveys of different kinds for things like carnivore tracking, CWD tracking, and so forth. We have another application with green and healthy schools, and it's really growing quite a bit. So if you're thinking of using Hub for anything, feel free to reach out to us for further information. And I think that's about it for the DNR.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry. I'm scribbling a note down myself. All right. So next we have Mark Pollitt's update from the Department of Revenue, which I will cover because he wasn't able to stay later today. So I'm just going to read his email verbatim. Hopefully it's not too colorful. No, it should be fine. All right. The Department of Revenue is facing challenges just like all of us and have realized all too quickly that the work has not gone away. No updates on the e-return project. E-returns are important to the state and we would like to see improvements to our current process, but that may take a while. So there's a very brief update from the Department of Revenue. So next I have Christine at the Department of Transportation.
Thank you. So we gave a presentation earlier today on our ArcGIS Enterprise deployment. We have implemented Portal for ArcGIS. It's been in production for a couple months now at DOT, and I'm happy to announce that we have over 860 users on the platform. So it's a strong presence in the agency, and we definitely needed it. It's something that complements our ArcGIS Online organizational site. And I have a note in the chat to talk to Larry about Hub Premium because we have business areas that are interested in Hub Premium as well. I also wanted to mention that we just established a data governance working group at WSDOT, and their primary mission is to sort of handle enterprise data feature layer changes in our spatial data repository. So we have a lot of custom applications at DOT, and a lot of them want to use the same data. So when the table changes, it can cause all sorts of upstream issues. And so this data governance work group is hopefully going to help maybe mitigate some of those issues. If a table changes, we won't break someone else's stuff. We are also working with our Office of Public Affairs on redesigning our ArcGIS Online homepage site. I'm sure all of the administrators out there are aware that AGO is sort of arm wrestling us into a new homepage design, and we're excited about it, but we want to make sure we get it right. So we're struggling through that. And with that, we also have a need to have some sort of GIS and mapping page on our wisconsin.dot.gov site, which we don't really have a lot of GIS presence there. So we're trying to make that more, bring together all of our GIS and mapping at DOT, put it on one web page in the wisconsin.gov site and make that more accessible, and that will point back to AGO and hopefully our hub and open data pages in the future. And lastly, and this doesn't have to go in the minutes, but I just wanted to mention that we at DOT, we're really definitely experiencing some resource constraints. We are in a hiring freeze. We're down a person on our team and down many people across the agency, not just my team. And that's been really challenging. So I'm hopeful and optimistic that we can maybe see some end to that misery in the near future. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for the update, Christine. And I think you bring out, one, definitely some exciting news, I think, coming down the pike with the developments at DOT, but definitely a nod at what isn't always an easy working environment because of said state hiring freeze and such as well. So a question that we don't need to maybe loop back on right away, but maybe we can wrap up at the end of the meeting. But if you rolled this into your updates, if you haven't given it yet, that wouldn't hurt either. This comes from Jennifer Borlick. She's asking if any state agencies are going to be tracking or mapping COVID cases in wild or domestic animals. she saw a CBS article about a COVID outbreak in minks on a mink farm, which I think Andy, or no, not Andy, Cody gave credence to that earlier in updates. So something to think about if you're in position to talk about it and haven't already. Otherwise, we'll loop back after updates. So next on the update list would typically be Shelley from the Department of Public Instruction, but Shelley needs to drop off. And no sweat, Jennifer, on the question. It's a good question. And Zach is going to give the update for DPI, and he'll probably chase it with his update from the Legislative Technology Services Bureau. Begin the soapbox, Zach.
Yeah, right. So I'm just going to read what Shelley sent me. The Department of Public Instruction is leading a variety of initiatives to address the digital equity gap faced by many children and families in our state. Using broadband coverage data and school district boundary data, we're able to determine where students should have coverage within the state. In addition, DPI is collecting student home internet accessibility and home address data from schools that will be used to determine the location of unserved and underserved students to better provide them with the internet access they need. Beyond that, DPI continues to update its public schools layer and school district boundary layers on a yearly and as needed basis. So that was the update from Shelley at DPI. Cool.
Excellent. Thanks, Zach. Go ahead and do yours.
All right, so this is the update from the Legislative Technology Services Bureau. So essentially, we're really focusing on local redistricting. We've been working a lot on the YSLR application, as well as training and outreach for our local partners throughout the state. So for those of you that were not on the call earlier, so at 10:30 we gave a presentation in collaboration. 10:30 this morning gave a presentation in collaboration with the Legislative Reference Bureau. I would highly recommend taking a look at that, especially if you think that this may impact you. We also have a training site with a lot of different resources that I'm gonna put a link in the chat box. So yeah, that's really, local redistricting is really our primary focus right now. And that's pretty much it going forward. I mean, among other legislative tasks. But yeah, that's really kind of getting geared up for that.
Excellent. Thank you, Zach. So we're going to go ahead and transition into my agency's update at the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin. Certainly, if you were on earlier today, you heard the updates from basically tied to the broadband expansion grant program and how GIS works with that. So I won't go into the weeds there beyond the fact that we are in the middle of an expansion grant round where we're rolling out $24 million of internet access funding, which will hopefully help cover some of the gap that Shelley and her team at DPI are working on identifying. We did hire a new GIS and broadband data analyst, and she came on board early in September. They actually needed to make, or early in August, they actually needed to make an exception to the state hiring freeze in order for Milena, who's on screen, hello Milena, to come on board. And I will, acknowledging what Christine said, definitely feeling the pinch before Milena came on board, and definitely we're still kind of working through and getting the engine running, but with a two-headed mapping monster. But Milena's picking stuff up quickly, which is exciting. So thank you so much. And also thank you for being on the PSC presentation today. You did not create the high drama that was on my end. So thank you so much for your good work there. Other big things. I made a very vague mention to it in our presentation. We are at a stage where we would like to upgrade our ArcGIS Enterprise existence from 10.5.1 to 10.8.1 because things got old and aren't working like they should, which is unfortunate. I mean, we were planning on doing the upgrades anyway, but some things have expedited it. So we are working with RIT to try to get that moving sooner rather than later. But yes, Chris and I have been chatting about this, and Christine, I bet you're going to be getting a phone call or several from me soon as well, because you've navigated in DOT's ways some of the waters that the PSC is going to be navigating here in the near future as well. We are also gearing up, as we've hinted on and off probably for the past year now. We are gearing up to put a little more, muscle's not quite the right term, but for lack of a better term, muscle into our request for more granular internet service data coming to us from our provider community so that we can work on making more accurate maps. It is certainly interesting and I think a lot more informative if we can get beyond the census block level in our internet coverage mapping. That is definitely a national conversation topic, and Wisconsin, to the extent that we have the pun regretfully intended bandwidth to do it, we're going to go ahead and see what we can come up with as far as better data goes, just like the FCC is. Certainly we've got a relationship with our local providers that hopefully we can make some productive hay with as well. And our environmental assessment or environmental review team is still basically maintaining its GIS presence on its regulatory project by project basis. And I think that covers the major points of PSC GIS news right now. So unless there's any questions for us, cool. I'm going to go ahead and punt this update cycle over to Jim Lacey at the State Cartographer's Office.
Thanks, Colter. So I'm going to hit my list very quickly because I'm very conscious of the time right now. So I'm just going to go down my list, like I said. So a couple things here. So I think everyone knows, I hope everyone knows, the statewide V6 parcel database has been out since July, and I can report there will be a V7. That contract with DOA was signed in the last couple of months or so, so that effort will be continuing on into the future. And a sister initiative to that, the Public Land Survey System statewide data set. The team is toiling away literally as we speak here, working on a so-called Edition 2, E2, not to be confused with V as in Victor version 6. I didn't make up these names, but that's what's happening. That data set will be a statewide data set, like I mentioned, derived from county data submitted earlier in the year. So I think that's going to be an exciting development. That data should be available early 2021. That's as much as I can say about the release date because the details are still to be determined. We also have a large project which has been in the works for a couple of years now. It's called the Wickedy Project. I'm not even going to attempt to say what that is exactly, so I'm just going to paste in a link and let others that might be interested at their leisure check out the website. But long story short, oops, actually that's a different link. There is an effort afoot in the northern part of the state to develop a culvert database for 4 counties. Like I said, in the northern coast, Lake Superior coast. There's also community of practice that's been developed around that effort, some other data development activities, really focused on coastal management issues. Thank you, Mike Freese, for posting that. Addressing coastal management issues, like I said, up north. So that's a big effort that's been out there for a while, and that effort's going to be continuing for another 18 months, give or take, as well. We've talked a fair bit about geodata at Wisconsin. I'll just briefly mention, I mean, that continues to grow. I alluded earlier that there's up to about 21,000 Wisconsin data sets that are documented in geodata at Wisconsin, and it'll continue to grow. I think it's worth noting we have all the LiDAR data sets that are on Wisconsin View now documented and searchable via geodata at Wisconsin, so that's exciting. That's a very recent addition, so that will continue to grow. Another random update here. Pretty sure everyone knows at this stage that the 2022 datum has been delayed. The implementation's been delayed by NGS for, I'm told, up to 3 years, but they're still going to call it the 2022 datum in 2025. Hey, go figure, but that's the way it's going to be. Also, not directly related, but I think also relevant to mention is that the survey foot, the US survey foot, has officially been deprecated, or it will be at the end of 2022, and that is the link I've posted a moment ago. Howard Varigan wrote a really nice article last week that describes some of the particulars of that, so I'm not going to get into details now, but I do recommend you check that out. It does have recommendations, boy, it's Friday. What a day is it? It's like 5 o'clock. I should just give up and shut down, I think. It has implications, is what I'm trying to say, for state statutes, potentially county-based ordinances, I suppose, as well, you know, references to the US survey foot. So that's definitely something the folks need to be thinking about and tracking very carefully. The other thing I wasn't going to mention, but I was kind of inspired by Ken Pena's talk when he was talking about the NHAP project and the DOQs that are being created. I think that's super exciting. And I want to mention that we've been thinking and talking about for some time now, in the last couple months, I should say, about how we can expand the current Wayfinder application that we maintain cooperatively with Robinson Map Library. This is a place where a person can go in and download 1930s era aerial photography. And we're really looking to expand that to, future eras, the 50s, the 70s, for example, try to pick, 20 years henceforth, just to provide some views that way. So some of the stuff that Kent was mentioning is super exciting as well. We'll have to get a talk scheduled with him. So lots of stuff going on. I think those are the high points for now.
Fabulous. Thanks, Jim. So I realized I messed up when I was ripping through an earlier part of the list and completely skipped Mike Freese at the Department of Administration. So Paul, we will get to you and UW Systems in a moment, as long as Mike is still online and available.
Hi, thanks. Yeah. So I'll try to be quickly. So Jim already touched on the V6 and then the V7 agreement with SCO and DOA. Whitkey was something I was going to touch on. We did get funding for a second phase of that, as Jim mentioned. Again, another cooperative effort between my coastal management program and SCO. Last month, we sent out the grant applications for WLIP, and we're continuing to find new uses and applications for the digital parcel map that we may not have anticipated. I think it was just this week, a census enumerator got a message from Peter. Peter got a message from him thanking us for the use of it and in his course of work of going out and counting people. I also want to talk about the coastal program together with the parcel map and DNR are working on outreach to Great Lakes property owners with the current elevated levels of water in the Great Lakes. We're seeing erosion and storm surges. So it's an effort to reach out to those property owners using the mailing addresses available through the parcel map and contacting them with resources they can access when they look to saving their private investments there. Also working, we have the latest edition, I think it's up, is the oblique photography that we've been flying through the coastal program with Civil Air Patrol. So if people haven't seen that, that's something great to look at. It's hosted by the Association of State Floodplain Managers, but it's another great tool that we've got to provide anecdotal evidence of erosion and use it to interpret recession rate analysis. And I think Davita's on. I don't know if she has anything to add, but that's all from me.
Davita, if you're still here, did you want to add anything? I'm not seeing a mic get unmuted, so I think we're probably good. So thank you, Mike. Yep, Davita confirms. Mike covered everything. So, all right, Paul Bainline from UW Systems Administration, go ahead.
Thanks, Colter. Hello.
Yep.
Just to say a few things about UWSA. So we're the staff to the Board of Regents of the UW system. We serve 13 institutions across 26 campuses around the state, and we serve approximately 170,000 students. I work in the Office of Capital Planning and Budget. The primary purpose of that office is to develop the 2-year capital budget request and a 6-year capital plan for the agency. And the primary role of the CPB GIS is to maintain facilities data in a geospatial context for reporting and planning purposes. The system has about 1,800 facilities around the state, and that makes up approximately 65 million gross square feet of space. And the replacement costs of that space is approximately $14.4 billion. And so I do a lot of project mapping related to those facilities and supporting the reporting and planning and request processes for the agency. Our last 2-year capital budget was a $1.25 billion enumeration. So we were pretty proud of that. And the one we've been working on this cycle is approximately $1.28 billion request. That would end up touching about 8.8%. No, I'm sorry, 12% of the total gross square footage of the portfolio. And one thing I've been working on over the last couple of months is putting together a dashboard that in ArcGIS Online that conveys some of the information in the current request. I'm going to paste that into the chat. It's kind of our first attempt at putting some of this information into a GIS application that can be shared with executives at the agency, the Board of Regents, and then later on in the process, the legislature and the public. So if anyone has any feedback about the dashboard, I'd really appreciate it. There's an email that will come to me in the application, and it's what I've been spending my time on for the last couple months. So otherwise, just trying to kind of hold down the fort, and updating data update cycles take a lot of my time over the course of the year. So work on that a lot.
Excellent. Very cool, Paul. It's neat to see I just got my first glance at the dashboard now. The map contest co-chair in me says, send it to the contest. But no, it's cool to see, and just different data than what I think we're normally used to. So I think it'd be good for our lovely GIS communities to spend some time with that. So thank you very much. And thanks for the update. We've got 2 of these to go, and it is 4:59. So Greg from the Elections Commission.
Yeah, I'll keep it brief because there's really nothing else that we're working on other than the election, which you may have heard is coming up. So yeah, I guess my major project right now is just adding new addresses for people when they call me. And and then updating our ward shape files, of course, is a big part of what we do. Not what we do, but what we're trying to do in our system using the county's data. So yeah, that process continues on. And then, of course, next year, as Zach alluded to, we have the redistricting kind of process starting up. So our big project, or my big project, I should say, for next year is getting the address points in our system up to par, so that when we get the new maps the following year, that we'll have everything sorted out and everyone gets assigned to the right ballot areas. So yeah, right now it's mostly just answering the phone and dealing with various things related to the election, but hopefully starting next year, we're gonna get a jump on the redistricting process, which is gonna be a big thing in our office. So that's all I got.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Greg. And lastly, we have from the Wisconsin Historical Society, Felipe.
Hey, so if you saw my presentation earlier, we're working on building an app to go in a searchable database to make searching for buildings, archaeological sites, burials, things like that a little bit easier. It's a graphical interface, and hopefully that will be implemented in the next couple of months. We're looking at tweaking how we distribute data for consultants, agencies, people who actually pull it from us. We're looking at setting up services for people who have very large service areas, like at least 13, 14 counties, as opposed to cutting shape files as we do it now. We've been testing that out with PSC. We've got a demo set up with the DNR that they're monkeying with. The response has been pretty good with that, so we're looking at implementing it a little more large scale. But we also have to figure out how big to make our server, how robust we need to scale it up. the one odd thing with COVID been going on is that a lot of people are doing a lot more research. We've actually been busier than we have been in past years with people asking for information, asking for data, getting projects ready to go. So it's been kind of an interesting side effect. It's making us a little busier. But also with the state budget cuts and hiring freezes, a lot of staff from the Historical Society are being loaned out to DWD, DHS for help and response. And so that's going to result in slowing down response times for database management, data requests, things like that. So we're busy, but they're sending staff away, which is kind of odd, but whatever, we'll work it out. Other than that, that's about it for right now.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Felipe. All right, we made it to 5:02 here, and we've gone through everybody's updates. Does anybody have any? I have not seen any other questions, by the way. Does anybody have any other items they want to throw out so everyone here can hear things out, or anything else for the good of the order? I can work with that. Our next meeting is on Wednesday, November the 4th, and that's almost certainly going to be held over our normal SAGIC Skype channel. If you want to follow along with what SAGIC is up to in meetings beyond today, feel free to email me and we can make things happen so that you can get on that meeting. It is technically a public meeting, so by all means reach out and we'll get you connected. Otherwise, I don't have anything else to add. I do want to say thank you to all the SAGIC members and voting reps and visitors who took the time out to be at today's meeting and provide updates and to share that with the wider WLIA crowd. So I think otherwise, to wrap things up, I can just take a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Who moved that? Is that Chris?
Yep.
Thank you, Chris. All right, all those in favor of adjourning today's meeting, please respond by saying aye.
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 All opposed? All abstaining? The